My name is Elizabeth and I own Pop of Color Balloon Design in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you want to know how I made this beautiful design behind me, then stick around. Okay, so today we are going to be working on a pretty large setup. I've got several different backdrops that I'm going to be putting these balloons on, and one in particular I'm really excited to share with you guys. I did another video a little bit ago with the shimmer wall from Ubackdrop, and this time I'm working with a completely different type of backdrop from Ubackdrop also. If you've ever seen those big, beautiful open arches as backdrops with balloons cascading through the middle, that's what we're going to be working with today, along with a few other really great backdrops. But that one in particular, I'm so excited about because I feel like those open arches really just make such a huge impact on an overall design and an overall setup. So I'm going to first start with all of the inflating, do all of the back end stuff, and then once we go outside to do the setup, I'll walk you through what the backdrop looks like, how it works, how you put it together, all that great stuff. As always, I've listed everything in the description box below, so if you are interested in purchasing one of these open arch backdrops or any of the other beautiful backdrops that Ubackdrop offers on their website, I will have their website linked below, and you can use the code Elisabeth10 and get 10% off your purchase, which is fantastic. So thank you so much, Ubackdrop, for sponsoring this video. Let's dive into it. Let me show you a little bit about what we're working with. I did some of the inflating before I started filming, obviously, because I wanted to save a little bit of time. I'm gonna be inflating about really 40 actual feet of balloons for this setup, so it's a lot, and I didn't wanna be sitting here boring you for, you know, a ton of time inflating all of my balloons. So I've done quite a bit already, and then I've got a few more balloons that I have to show you so that I can walk you through exactly how I inflate my balloons and how I tie them together. The colors that we're working with today are Qualitex White, Qualitex Pink, Tuftex Hot Pink, and then I have this really pretty gorgeous butterfly print from BCT Balloons. If you're not familiar with BCT Balloons, she has a fantastic collection of not just amazing prints like this, but a lot of really wonderful just plain colors as well. So I will make sure to link her website below because I love working with her prints, and I feel like this is just gonna bring in such a fun vibe for the setup that we have going on. So I'm gonna get right into it. I'm gonna walk you through how I inflate my balloons so that they get that really nice, very circular shape, and then how I tie them together. So I always like to inflate my same sizes together. So all of my 11-inch balloons I'll inflate together, and then my 16 or 17-inch balloons I'll also inflate those together. And it just helps kind of still create that really organic look with lots of different sizes, but it's also a little bit easier and faster when you're inflating that way because you're not having to worry about pinching off the air on one side while you inflate the other side. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today. I've got 2 of my 11-inch Qualitex Pink balloons, my trusty Amazon inflator here, and we're just gonna get started. So, when I first inflate my balloons, I always overinflate them so they look like these big eggs, and then from here, I like to let out some of the air so I get that really circular look. So I'm just gonna press down on the balloons and release some of the air. And now we have really beautiful, very circular balloons. And that really is going to be how you get that really professional look in your overall design, is by making sure that your balloons are underinflated so they look like those really nice circles. So I would say my 11-inch balloons I inflate to about 9 inches. Once I have them the way that I want them, I'm going to tie the necks together. I'll show you what that looks like. I just pull the necks really, really tight as possible, twist around one balloon once, and then twist it again, and then tie it off once. And then you've got something like this. So you can tell that the two balloons are really, really tight and close together, and I have a ton of stretch in my necks. So I do use the neck tying method to put together all of my designs. So having this extra neck is really, really important if you want to learn how to use that neck tying method. You're gonna want as much extra neck as possible when it comes time to tie these balloons together. So I'll show you again, this time with some 17-inch balloons. So again, I've got these a little bit overinflated, not true circles quite yet. I'm gonna do the same thing. Let out some of the air so we've got some better circles here. And I would say that I inflate my 17-inch balloons to about 15 inches or 15 and a half inches. So I'm gonna take them, twist once, twist twice, and then tie them together. And I've got them really close together and lots of extra neck for me to work with when I'm finished. So I am just going to continue doing that with all of these balloons that I have here, and then we'll put them together and cluster them. So I'm done with all of my larger balloons, my 11-inch and 16, 17-inch, and now all I have left are my 5-inch balloons. I always like to do my 5-inch balloons last because they're the most tedious and the most annoying. But really all of the same rules apply when I am inflating my 5-inch balloons. The biggest difference is that they're a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna show you how I inflate these. So same thing, I start by overinflating them quite a bit. They're very, very egg-shaped. So I'm gonna deflate them, do the exact same thing, get those really nice circles, and I would say these are about 3.5 to 4 inches in size. Anytime I hear someone talk about how they feel like their 5-inch balloons deflate faster than all of the rest of their balloons, the number one tip that I give them is to inflate them a little bit more. So a lot of times I hear people say that they inflate their 5-inch balloons to just 3 inches. When they're that small, it's really difficult for the balloon to stay taut if it starts to lose any air whatsoever. And air naturally starts to come out of the balloons just through the process of oxidation for latex balloons. So you're going to be losing air out of your balloons no matter what. It's just a natural process. So if you don't have your 5-inch balloons inflated enough with enough air inside of them, what happens is there isn't enough air to actually keep it looking full. So the moment it loses even the tiniest bit of air, the balloon itself is gonna start to look shriveled. So if you start by inflating them to about 4 inches, you've got a lot more wiggle room to play with when you're losing air out of these balloons before they start to actually look like they're deflated and shriveled. So that's my biggest piece of advice for 5-inch balloons. Now we're gonna start clustering. I do clusters of 6. So I use 3 duplets, which is, a duplet is 2 balloons tied together like this. So this is 1 duplet. And all I do to make my clusters is I take 2 duplets, I put them in a T or an X right in the middle, and then I'm going to twist a balloon from one duplet around a balloon from the other duplet. So I twist 1 time, twist 2 times, and now this is really nicely locked together. And this is called a quad. So 4 balloons together in a cluster like this is a quad. I'm gonna add 1 more duplet to this quad, and it's gonna be a duplet of my larger balloons. So 17-inch balloons here put together with these 11-inch balloons. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing, find 1 balloon, put this kind of in the middle, and then I'm gonna twist one of the new balloons around one of the old balloons currently in the cluster. Twist once, twice, and now this is what a cluster is going to look like. So I'm just gonna make a whole bunch of those. I do the exact same thing for when I only have 11-inch balloons. So these are all the same size. These are actually 12-inch, but I don't have any larger balloons for these. So I'm doing the same thing. putting a quad together, and then I'm still going to put a third duplet in this. So I think it's really important that anytime you're doing an organic balloon design, you have at least 3 sizes of balloons. So almost always, the 3 sizes that I'm using are 5-inch, 11-inch, and 16 or 17-inch. If you want to incorporate 24-inch balloons or 36-inch balloons, that's great too. Usually I don't, I just stick to those 3 sizes. But it is really crucial if you want that truly organic look to make sure that you have at least 3 sizes. Okay, so that's it for clustering all of my bigger balloons. Now I'm gonna cluster all of my 5-inch balloons. This is a little bit different. So all of my 5-inch balloons, I always cluster the same colors together, but I'm only gonna be making quads. So twist once, twist twice, just like our big balloons, but that's it for my 5-inch. So I'm just gonna do a whole bunch of quads for all of my 5-inch. Okay, so that's it for step number 2. We have clustered all of our balloons. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is tie 2 clusters together. The reason I like to do this is because it just gives a little bit more of that true color block look in the final design. I really like having that color block kind of look. I don't really like mixing all of my colors together unless a client really wants that look. So typically I like doing it this way because it gives me a little bit of bigger pieces to work with when I'm out at the site doing the setup, and it allows me to have that more color block look. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be tying 2 clusters of the same color together to create basically 2 feet of balloons together, a mini garland, you might want to call it, something along those lines. So this is where the neck tying method first comes into play. So I'm going to be tying the necks together of these 2 clusters to put them into basically one piece. So all I'm going to do is find the stretchiest neck in the middle of one cluster and put it in my hands between my finger and thumb. And I'm going to do the same thing, find just a really, probably can't see that very well, a really stretchy neck in the other cluster. I'm gonna pull them both as taut as possible, and then I'm gonna really use my body to press one cluster against me so I can really pull that other cluster in close. And then from there, I am just going to tie these into a knot. I can't really see it very well. It's always a really hard thing to show, but this is what the inside should look like. So this is 2 clusters tied together, just an easy knot right in the middle. And then you get something like this. So this is about 2 feet of balloons, and that's what I'm gonna be doing for all of these other clusters here. Okay, so I think the number one question that I get asked from people is how I make my really long, skinny 5-inch clusters of balloons. So I'm gonna show you how I do that here. So I have all of my 5-inch balloons clustered into quads, just like we talked about already. And again, I'm gonna do the exact same thing as my bigger clusters. I'm gonna find a stretchy neck in both clusters, pull them really tight together, and I'm just gonna tie them together in the middle. Once you do that, you'll have something like this. The thing that I always suggest is make sure that your balloons from both clusters are perfectly aligned on all sides. So you'll kind of be able to feel how to get them together. It kind of feels like a puzzle piece almost, but you know that it's right when all of your balloons are in straight lines on every side. So from there, you're gonna go to the top. So if I'm looking at it from the side, everything is aligned. I'm gonna take a neck from the top of this cluster, and that's the next neck that I'm gonna tie to the next cluster of quads. So again, I've got a neck from the very top of this one, top middle, and then I've got a neck from in here, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm just gonna tie this new quad onto my existing cluster. Make sure the balloons are nice and aligned on all sides. And the really cool thing about these is that you can make them as long as you want. I like to go a little crazy sometimes and make really, really long clusters of 5-inch balloons because they just look so beautiful when they are combined in your finished product. So I'm gonna add a few more to this one. So I'm happy with the length of that one. This is 5 clusters, 5 quads tied together, and that's the length that you've got. So probably about 2 feet, 2.5 feet for this one. So I like to have a variety of different lengths when I do my 5-inch balloons. So sometimes I'll just leave a quad the way that it is. Other times I'll tie them together. I'll use varying lengths. I like to have that variety in the finished product. So I'm gonna start tying all of these together, and then we'll get started on, what is that, step number 4? Okay, so I have all of my 5-inch balloons all clustered together. Let me see if I can bring this out a little bit. So all different sizes. I've got some just quads together. I've got longer ones, shorter ones. So I think we're ready. I think we are ready for step 4. I am going to bag up all of these balloons, and then I will meet you outside. Okay, so here is the backdrop setup that we have for today's design. Over here, this really, really cute London phone booth I actually had created by a local company here that does backdrops. I will put all of their information below if you're interested. But this bad boy is the one that we're really going to be focusing on today, this open arch from Ubackdrop. So I want to walk you through a little bit about it. First and foremost, so the inside, the like base of it is all really lightweight. I think it's aluminum. Like pipes that you just put together. They all click together. It's really fast and easy to assemble it. And then this piece on the top is a fabric. So you can purchase lots of different fabrics. You can purchase the fabric separate from the base. So they have white, they have black. I think you can also make your own. So you can choose to do something that's custom, like a different color. And then the really cool thing is that this just zips on to the base, to the frame, and it's finished and it's super easy. I will say one thing that I wish I had done before today was get my steamer out and just steam out all of the little wrinkles. I would definitely suggest doing that if you're going to be using this backdrop for a client. But otherwise, the thing that I love the most about it, well, 2 things. The first thing is the bases are really great for sandbags. So you know it's not going to go anywhere. That's going to be really nice. And then the second thing is it's super, super lightweight. So it's really easy to take to a client. It's super fast and easy to put together. And I just love it. I'm so excited to show you kind of the texture that it's going to put into all of this setup. But I just think this is such a fun little Valentine-y, very girly kind of setup that we have. So I am going to get started on step 4. Okay, so step 4 is all about building your base, and this is one of the most important parts of creating a really beautiful setup. When you start off with just building out a base, what it's going to help you do is really create the shape that you're ultimately going for in your design. So initially, I'm not doing any sort of fluff work. I'm not adding anything to make this setup wider or bigger. I'm just starting off with that base, and you can really think of it as the framework for your entire design. So I'm starting over here with the telephone booth, and then you'll see me work over onto the other side, and I do all of that first before I go into doing any more of the additional fluffing out of the design or adding any more elements to the design. I wait until I'm done with my base for every single piece of this before I move on to that final step. Now, one of the challenges with working with a backdrop that is made out of fabric, like this open arch, is how to get your balloons attached to it. And one of the things that I have found to be the best is using really heavy-duty safety pins and attaching those first to the back of the fabric and then putting a 260 balloon through that safety pin. I will have all of the different hooks and things that I use linked down in the description box below if you're curious, but anytime you're working on fabric, I always suggest using those really heavy-duty safety pins. The one caveat to that is that you always want to make sure that you're only putting those safety pins on the back of your backdrop, because they do leave pretty big holes and you don't want to see that on the front. So always make sure that you are attaching those to the back of the backdrop. And then with this open arch backdrop, once I get to the bottom outside, I'm simply wrapping wrapping a 260 around the actual base of the backdrop. So I'm not using any additional hooks or safety pins to the front of that arch. Okay, so now you're seeing me start to add to my base. So now we are officially in step 5 of our 5-part process. And this is adding that extra dimension, adding fluff, adding all of our detail work. And this is where you're gonna start seeing this design really get larger and look a lot more professional. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you is to build from behind in your backdrop. So you see me over and over again going behind my open arch and adding those additional balloon mini garlands to the back. And what that's going to do is it's going to create the illusion that it really is a true waterfall of balloons happening, as opposed to just kind of plopping new balloons on the front of your design every single time you add balloons. That ends up looking really bulky. It doesn't have a really professional finished look. So when you're adding balloons from behind, it's just going to give you that peekaboo effect and really just make it look much more professional and much more polished. Okay, so we've used up all of our big balloons. Now you're going to see me starting to add in those 5-inch balloons as really the detail work. And this is where you're really going to start to see your design come to life. Adding in these 5-inch balloons, there's just something about it that makes the whole thing come together. So one of the things I really like to do with those longer 5-inch clusters is try to wrap them around the existing setup instead of just kind of putting them in one straight line like plopped right on the front of my design. If you are adding a little bit of movement in when you're adding these 5-inch clusters, it's going to create that illusion of real movement and fluidity throughout your design. And last but not least, my absolute favorite part is adding greenery and florals to all of my designs. My battery ended up dying during this part, so I want to make sure that I give you a couple really important tips. The first one is to always make sure that you are putting in your florals and your greenery in big clusters, almost like you have a full bouquet when you're putting them in. And the second thing is, if you have any parts that are really sharp on the edges, you can put a 260 balloon around the base of that flower so that it won't pop any of your balloons. And there you have it. That is our finished product. It is so beautiful, so springy. I am ready for the warmer weather while I'm looking at this. And I just think it turned out beautifully. And as you can see, that open arch backdrop from Ubackdrops just makes such a stunning focal point for this entire setup. I love the way that it turned out. I just think it's such a fun photo op. I will make sure that I put some sort of voiceover or something over the greenery and floral part so you know what I did. But I am sweaty and hot, so I need to go inside. I will enjoy my design from the comfort of inside looking through the window, but I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and this video. As always, everything is linked in the description box that I used. Everything that I can possibly link, I will link for you. If you have any questions, drop them into the comments section below. Let me know if you are planning on getting one of these open arch backdrops. I just think that it really made the entire thing, and I love it. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again to Ubackdrop for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.